welcome to another episode of the REI Rocketfuel podcast. Today, I'm joined by none other, the one, the only, the infamous RJ Nusz. Is it Nusz?
It's Nusz, yes,
Perfect.
sir.
Nailed it. Well, RJ, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you've got a busier schedule than most with a full-time job and a real estate empire that you're running. So, I want to thank you and make sure you know how much I appreciate, and I'm sure the listeners appreciate as well, someone at your level and at your stage taking time out of their day to, reach back and reach out and tap into the local community and to provide the insight that you've got and kind of talk about the mistakes and lessons, the mistakes you've made and the lessons you've learned along the way. I'm looking forward to it. This has been a long time coming.
Absolutely. I know we've been talking about this for a long time and glad that we finally get to do it. You said something funny earlier that resonated with me. If I was to write a book, it would be How to Build a Real Estate Empire with a Full-Time Job.
Yeah, and that's you're one of the few, and I mean less than 5 people that I know of personally in my sphere that have done it at this level. So that's an exciting piece and something that I think is going to speak to a lot of people that are listening to this show. I would say that your beginning of it is going to be more similar to a lot of listeners than mine or than many others, where they have a W-2 and they kind of want to dabble in it on the side and see where it goes. Well, you're the end result of where it goes. So I think that's going to really resonate with a lot of listeners, and I'm really excited about it.
Perfect. Now, I think that it's a unique and interesting way to get started because you still have the safety net of a full-time job.
Sure.
And for me, I just found that I actually like that. And if I can do both, and like I said, like we were talking a little bit before we started, it's pressure tested a few things that I thought that I had in place or realized that, I didn't have in place.
Sure.
That I, was able to then put in place. So it pressure tests a system pretty well.
I get that.
So why not keep scaling? Hindsight being 2020, I haven't been able to scale it as fast as I could have, but it is still scaled. I mean, I think right now I'm probably north of like $6.5 million worth of real estate assets. So, and in Wichita, Kansas, for most of our audience here that may be here, that's roughly about 100 doors.
Right. Yeah. That's not 2 duplexes in Orange County, California. This is a lot of doors.
Yeah. So, which then, early on, I'm jumping ahead, but early on, I was trying to do it all, manage it all. And most of that wasn't never me slinging a hammer or doing any repairs, but me rolling the Rolodex of contacts and people we would outsource to. But as of late, I am very rapidly transitioning out of the management. I think right now I've got about 75 doors that are with a property management company. Nice. And the only reason the rest haven't transitioned is because they got long-term tenants that never ask for anything and they pay the bills every month.
Yeah, those are the easy ones.
Why pay a property management company a percentage just for the privilege of collecting rent that I've got tenants that just automatically deposit into my bank account every month?
Right. Can't hate that.
I don't go to door to door.
No, you can't hate that. That doesn't get any better than that. I don't have a single tenant yet in my young career that has been that easy. So
wow. I think I've got one guy yesterday that I was talking to that's been in one place for 10 years.
Have you raised his rent?
Well, that's probably the reason why he's been there. But yeah. I also have operated on, because I'm self-managing a few of those doors,
sure, you got a little bit more room.
Were 2 in the bush.
Yeah.
So if I raise the rent, I know they would vacate very quickly. But right. It was interesting because I got a text saying, do you have anything else like this from this particular tenant? Do you have anything else like what I'm living in for similar rent? And my answer was, unfortunately, no.
Right.
And if you're free to look,
right.
If you want to look, please give me the courtesy of a 30-day notice prior to your next month's rent due. I know once she looks,
You won't
she's
find
gonna
it.
realize there's nothing like what I got right now. But I also bought that property a long time ago, and rents have inflated. So, I've got good margins in that particular property and others that I've continued to self-manage. But it's been interesting. Once we quit managing them and we fix it back up, then we turn it over to property management, and it's not uncommon for us to see them get an extra $100 to $250 a door
It's
out of it.
solid. But
Yeah,
I mean, so much of that has to do with, I mean, you're really, really good at your full-time job. Your full-time job has absolutely nothing to do with property management and leasing.
correct.
So I'm turning it over to the professionals that have the systems in place and the marketing in place and the mental bandwidth in place. You typically get a better result. And I'm in real estate. Like, that's my wheelhouse. And I don't manage. I don't manage my properties. I don't have time for tenants and toilets.
I understand. Me too. I don't either. I thought I did for a while, and I tried, but it didn't.
Whew. All right, well, let's go back to the beginning. RJ, talk to our audience about how you got started in real estate investing and why you got started in real estate investing.
Okay. So early on, I was always intrigued about real estate, and had some buddies that owned some properties up in Manhattan, Kansas, and guys I've known forever. And I remember I talked to them about, hey, what do you guys think about buying some properties here in Wichita? And they were like, yeah, well, if you want to find them, we'll buy with you. So I was a quarter partner in an LLC, and we bought our first quadplex, a duplex, and then a house, and ultimately a commercial property.
Oh, wow.
A whole nother story. Not my expertise. I let other people deal with the stress of tenants and of commercial tenants. But we grew pretty quick within like about 3 years, 3 years. We bought those properties and they were good, and then we didn't do anything, and that was kind of about it. And so then in 2014, I got an opportunity to buy them out.
Oh, okay.
Bring in another partner. So I had a gentleman that we'd been spitballing about real estate for a long time. And finally he's like, I think I'm going to do something. And I was like, hey, I think if you're serious, we could team up. My partners are ripe to be bought out. In fact, they're willing to. They said they would sell to me, but nobody else. But if I wanted to leave it as it was, they were okay with that too. Because I was doing all the work. Sure. Finding the properties, I was doing the property management, all of it on my own. They were literally silent. So next thing you know, literally scribbled on almost like an envelope or a back of a napkin. I was like, yeah, here's an idea for an LLC name, and we put some ideas together. And next thing you know, we're formed another LLC and bought them out. That was 2014.
Nice. Okay.
And then
that was the reason. How many doors? What, there were 8 or 9 doors there total?
We bought them out. Yeah, 4 doors, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the time.
7 doors.
And then pretty quickly we, because we'd already divested the commercial property, the 4 of us had. So pretty quickly we did the traditional real estate model. We're like, hey, let's buy some property. How much cash can we pull together?
Right.
And literally over the next year, we bought 2 more duplexes. And then it was kind of like, well, that was fun.
So you were the multifamily man. It sounds like you didn't like single families.
Well, it was the ROI on the multifamily was where we went on that. Well, the point was we put 20% down, and that was all of our cash.
Right. So now we're like a couple of them a year, because every time you bought one, you're back to zero.
Correct.
Replenish that cash, back to zero. Replenish it, back to zero.
So I started thinking, man, there's got to be a better way. Yeah. So I started following some guys online that were mostly all fix and flip guys.
Sure.
And I started looking, joined a mastermind. I think that cost me like 40 grand. Money well spent, honestly. What makes it money well spent is I actually did something with it.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of other people like, oh, I got hosed or scammed on this, right, and I'm getting nothing out of it. The value is what are you going to do with it? I mean, all the tools and resources are there. It's
like going to the gym. You have the nicest gym at, the nicest equipment, the best trainers, the best water, nicest locker rooms. You can have access to all of that. But if you don't work out while you're at the gym, it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah. So we put it in practice, and they were very big on the fix and flip. That was pretty hot in around the 2015, 16 market. And here we were buying whole guys.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we can deploy this. We learned all about buying properties with none of our own money.
Yeah.
That was the big game changer for us, was buying properties with other people's money. I mean, they say there's over $4 trillion of money sitting on the sidelines that's uninvested.
Idle cash.
All good deals get funded.
Good deals.
And I have found that to be so true. There's people out there that want to get involved in real estate. They like the security of real estate, the predictability of real estate, much more than current predictability of the stock market or crypto. And we could go down the rabbit hole of that right now.
Yeah.
That at least, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can see it.
I can drive by and look at it and see that my money is in that house and it has not burned down and blown away. This is good.
Correct. Yeah. So I thought, surely we can do this for buying holds. So we basically took that model, and we were the oddball in a bunch of people that were all fix and flip. And we were using that model to buy and hold. Now, every once in a while, we would flip a property, and I still do. I probably have done, anywhere from 2 to 6 flips a year.
Yeah.
Because a bucket of cash is awfully nice.
Yeah.
But that's a hustle. Once you finish a flip, you're basically unemployed again.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's it.
It's like wholesaling too. Same deal. As soon as that deal's gone, you're back to unemployed again.
Right.
So it was funny because I remember sitting in mastermind groups and everybody was talking about flip, and why aren't you guys flipping more and all this? And we're like, we like buy and hold.
Yeah.
It's good. We're trying to build our wealth over the long haul. We're not into the short haul game.
Right.
Well, fast forward now, all those guys wish they had more of the properties they sold 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Even, if I just had that property. And I know why. You look at the real estate market now, what we paid for properties back in 15, 16, 17 versus what we're paying for the identical property now. You can never get, you can't repurchase a property.
Yeah.
You can always refinance it to get your payments down and whatnot, but you can't and you can fix it up and raise your rents, but you can't repurchase a property.
Yeah.
So, it's funny to see them all come full circle and say, hey, we're back to doing more buy and holds now. You guys knew something way before we did. We didn't. We had an idea and we had a plan of buy and hold. That's what we wanted to do, what we wanted to grow to.
Yeah. I mean,
and the reason we chose real estate as that model was, you can't read a book without, be it Donald Trump or Warren Buffett or anybody out there, Robert Kiyosaki, you name it, all these people that have, they've made lots of money, and it's all been on the back of real estate.
Real estate.
The tax code is set up in a way that the government wants you to own real estate.
Yeah.
So we knew that there had to be a better way than what I wrote down in some notes earlier that early on, we're all told, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, work for the rest of your life at a job or jobs, get a pension or retirement plan and retire. Right. Well, I call that the 40-40-40 plan. You're going to work 40 years of your life, 40 hours a week, 40 years, 40 hours
of your income.
Bingo. Yeah. And I'm like, that just isn't gonna
doesn't sound like fun to me.
No,
it doesn't sound like fun. I tell people all the time, my favorite thing about real estate is the leverage. You can't go to Bank of America and get a loan to buy Bank of America stock. Yeah. But you can go to Bank of America, not that I would recommend going to Bank of America for your real estate needs, but
I gotcha. Yeah.
They are publicly traded. So the analogy works. They won't give you money to buy their own stock. They'll give you money 7 days a week to go buy real estate.
Yep. Exactly.
All the indicators are there. Yeah. So what, in all of that, from your initial partnership to your second partnership, are you still partners with that second partnership today?
Yep.
Okay.
I am. Okay. Yeah.
So there wasn't any falling out or anything. I'm sure people were hanging on the edge of their seat, waiting for the other shoe to drop and then my partner stole all the money and then I had to start all over. And
No, that's not happened. I know
Ah,
those stories are abound out there, but my partner and I, we have a really good relationship in that he pretty much trusts me on the real estate. See, okay, so here's the plus. I have a full-time job.
yep,
He's a full-time professional as well. So he's building a business of his own. And that's the ball he wants to watch, and that's
yep,
what he wants to do. And him and I've talked about it, what's my goal? One of my long-term goals would be I I would love to wave a magic wand and be full-time real estate, because I know the potential is there, but also too, I don't know if I need to do that.
right,
For him, he doesn't want to do that at all, but he likes the ability of saying, but he could if he
sure,
wanted to. Now we have
sure,
a long ways to go before, because we have to double everything. I
right,
mean, think about that. Everything I own 50% of, that's it.
right,
So, it's going to take us, we got to get double the way a solopreneur would have to be.
right,
But I'm okay. For me, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility of having somebody else that I can call and say, hey, this just happened. And I'm so invested into what happened that sometimes I can't view it with a clear set of eyes. And there's been multiple times where he's viewed it and said, well, have you thought about doing this? And I'll
yeah,
be like, that's a brilliant idea.
duh,
No,
right,
I hadn't
yeah,
thought about that.
yeah.
Uh,
Sam
okay.
on our team here at One Roof always tells me, because I struggle with the same thing. And she always tells me it's hard to see the forest through the trees.
Bingo.
And
Yeah.
I am in the trees and the
Mhm.
weeds more often than I should be, admittedly speaking. So
Yeah.
I totally understand partnerships like that, because we've had the inverse on the show. We've had people that have had multiple partnerships and now they're solo, and they say, I'll never, like, what kind of ship sinks the fastest? A
Yeah.
partnership. Like, those
Mhm.
ships sink the fastest. So I've had
Yeah.
I've had the whole spectrum on the show. You're the first one that I've ever talked to that doesn't have a bad partnership to talk about.
Well, and so there's a lot to be learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one chef in the kitchen on
Yeah,
the real estate side of stuff. It's me. I mean, he lives an hour and a half away. So
partnerships work best when when it is set up that way.
Mhm.
When 1 + 1 = 2, you can get to 2 by yourself. But when 1 + 1 = 10,
Yes.
that's a good partnership. That's a
And that's where
great
we're at
partnership.
right now. We have a very good mutual understanding, and I'm the one that knows the real estate stuff better than him at this point. He wouldn't be where he is in real estate if it wasn't for me. I wouldn't be where I am in real estate if it wasn't for him. And so we kind of have this agreement, and we've worked really hard at it to make sure that, if I'm going to do anything in real estate, then he's going to come along. If
Right.
he's going to do something in real estate, then I'm going to come along too. We just kind of have a mutual understanding which is cool, because if one of us gets offered something real estate related outside of what we're doing here, we
Mm-hmm.
normally talk to the other. And there's been a time where he's like, yeah, you should go do that. That's not for me. Okay. And I may go do that. Or
Sure.
the inverse for me to
Right.
him. Say, yeah, I'm not
Sure.
going to go do that. We have a good open line of communication. It works well for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's the in in all of that, between the two partnerships or outside of that, what's the biggest lesson you've learned, or the biggest mistake that you've made along the way? Like,
Yeah.
not to say that if you could go back and you could change things, because then
Sure.
you wouldn't be where you were. I get that. But if you could go back and not make that mistake, or not pay that dumb tax, but still have the same end result, still end up where you are today, what would it be?
Well, I would say systems and processes is a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. And I probably further on, you're going to talk about what's something that I'm really good at. And I think this is kind of still related to this is I've been pretty good at raising private money.
Mm,
And in my mastermind group, that was something that people talked about a lot early on, was starting to build your network and raising private capital. And I was kind of like, yeah, we don't really need it. The bank's going to loan us whatever we want,
right.
type of a thing. But I think if I could do it again, I would have gone out earlier and leveraged my relationships
Really?
to
Okay.
raise more private capital earlier, because not for me, but think about where we would all be had
Right.
I started doing that 2, 3 years ahead of when I started doing it. we would all, because right now I've got more capital than I know what to do with. And as you're seeing in the market right now, just the deals are hard to come by.
Yeah.
And so I can't deploy it. And they're like, yeah, I got some more money. I need to get some money out there. And then the network of the financiers to other potential financiers, because they all have friends, they all talk.
Absolutely.
And if you get somebody who's into a good deal, then they can't help but talk to their buddy who also may be a potentially good investment partner.
Right.
And I won't get into the SEC. There's obviously the right way and wrong way to go about raising private money. So just to be compliant.
Sure.
That's a conversation for another day. But it's very fascinating how the pool of money available at your disposal just continues to grow. And I wish I would have taken heed to that maybe a little bit earlier and began building that network quicker. That's one thing I wish I would have done differently.
Yeah.
And always being mindful of systems and processes, because you can put your systems and process in place and just wash, rinse, and repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat. And that's how we've grown our real estate portfolio so quickly over so many years. I mean, shoot, in 2020, Lawton, I mean, what did I tell you? I think I bought like 32 houses in 2020.
You grew a ton in 2020.
Yeah. And, it was, I had access to the capital. I mean, the stars were aligned. Everything was perfect. People were bringing money and introducing me to their friends who had money. And, now you get a little swagger.
Right. And
somebody says, so what is it you do? And you're in the locker room at the YMCA and somebody's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I do real estate. Oh, I've been fascinated to be in real estate, but I'm, 67 years old and I'll never do it.
Too old to go chase down rent.
But I got a bunch of money.
Right.
Like, oh, really? Like how much? Oh, I don't know. I probably got about $750,000 sitting around. Like,
right. We can do something with that.
We should probably have dinner. We should go have lunch.
Right. Yeah. It's like, we can do something with that.
It's just fascinating how everything kind of starts to happen in a way like that. So
yeah,
I wish I would have activated that earlier. That's what I
put yourself in those rooms. You put yourself in those circles of people, and you put it out there enough, something's bound to come back your way.
Yeah, the universe tends to respond that way. Just put it out there. That's why we all have vision boards. I got one right here. I'm sure you got one as well. That
right behind that camera. Right there.
Put it out there, and the world tends to mobilize to make it happen.
That's right. That's right. So talk to us about your business today. We talked about it up to this point. Talk about your business today. What kind of properties are you buying right now? Where are you buying them? Do you avoid certain areas? Are you looking into other markets? Just what's your business look like today? What does RJ Nusz do?
It hasn't changed a whole lot, honestly. But I have found that like I'll do flips that are under 250.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And just because I feel like that's a first time home buyer market.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get into the above 250. You get to a certain point and they'll go build it rather than buy something that's been done by somebody else.
And your buyer pool is just, it
starts to shrink.
Smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller of people that can afford to buy that house.
Right. Yeah. I was involved in a deal, once before that was about a $500,000 deal, and it sat forever. And I'm glad I didn't buy it, but I watched it from the side. That deal took like a year to get moved. That's a lot of holding costs, a lot of insurance.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So I'd say single family residence, mostly duplexes on the buy and hold side. I like to do duplexes and quadplexes and so forth. Still small, but so small commercial stuff with multifamily. In those, from a door standpoint, I probably like them to be under 125K.
Sure.
A door.
Oh yeah.
And that's because you think about this, if you go back to the old unstated rule of the 1% rule, if you get to $150,000 house, you need to be renting it for $1,500.
Right.
Well, there's a point in there where somebody's just going to go own rather than rent. So absolutely. I know there's people that specialize in that market. That's not really me. So I'd say the sweet spot for me is probably like 85,000. Today's market is like 85,000 to 150 mark. It used to be like 65 to like
100. Yeah.
140.
Right.
You know, it's had to go up
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean,
because it's safe.
because the
I feel
market
like,
has.
yeah, people will always, and I like single family residents other than commercial properties, is because once you start when you're driving around, just look at all the vacant commercial properties. They're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Especially right
And
now.
everybody's going to need a roof over their head. And there's goes back to if you got a long-term tenant, a bird in the
Yeah.
hand's worth two in the bush. I mean, they got to have a roof over their head. They kind of get themselves pinned in that they can't go look for anything. And
Right.
if you bought the house 10
Right.
years ago, I'm okay. You know, if the rent was good then, the rent's still good now, and I'm 10 years further, I'm half paid off. So
Right.
they could own the house. Yeah, I take that back. I have a guy that's been renting a place for me since 2006. And yeah, it's
How
just
many
crazy.
times has he bought that house?
At least once.
Golly.
Yeah. So it's just crazy, you know. I mean, but again, if I kick him out or try to raise the rent, then I'm going to go in there and probably spend 15 grand fixing the place up.
All it does is put it back on your plate.
Bingo. And I
It
just
takes
seem
your
not to
time
do it.
into it, takes capital into it.
But if I've got a property management company, then I'm okay with that because they can handle a lot of that. But if it's,
Right.
I'm still self-managing that one and probably will until he leaves.
I was just gonna say, as low maintenance as it is, it doesn't sound like that's one that would be turned over.
Yeah. So those are kind of the two: single family flips under 250 and rentals somewhere, let's say under 125. I'd like to be under 125 on the rental side. I avoid the proverbial war zone.
Sure.
Some guys like to specialize in buying that. Not really my thing. I have just found that, well, you know, I guess there was a point in time where you could buy those deals right. And now, even though the prices of those houses have gone way up,
Sometimes.
it's never really appealed to me. I don't do Section 8. I don't know. I think for me, is a little bit of a fundamental issue that I don't like paying my own rent.
Sure. That's fair. I get that. I've never heard anyone describe it like that before, but that's well said. Stands to reason.
Yeah, I mean, for some people find that as a specialty and they like to go after that. They can have it.
It takes all kinds. Someone has to own those. Someone has to own the ones that you buy. Someone has to own the ones that I buy. Everyone has to own them. We've all got our place, and it's all great.
Yeah, I think, and too, you know, things I've learned along the way is, you've got it too, it sounds like, is kind of the abundance mentality. There is plenty of deals to go around.
Oh, yeah. Good Lord.
The more people you help reach their goal, the more likely you're going to reach your goal.
Right. You don't have to tear
mentoring.
down someone else's building to have a taller building.
Correct. Yeah.
You can just focus on building a bigger fucking building.
Yep. Yeah.
Easy as that. Why do you think in an industry where a lot of people get in and either see glimmers of success and then fizzle out, or they get in with really high hopes and a lot of energy and immediately fizzle out because they don't know what they're doing? Why do you think you have been so successful in an industry that has claimed so many victims?
There's right off the top of my head, two things. The first one I think about is maybe three things. Okay. The first one is that I was willing to admit that I didn't know it all, and to be humble and coachable and be open to being mentored. And I paid for that mentorship.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which is fine. The way I look at that is you're going to pay tuition.
That's true.
The question is, are you going to pay it as a stupid tax, or are you going to pay somebody else to say, hey, you're walking into the minefield,
right?
But don't step here. There's a mine over there. Don't step here. There's a mine over there because we've already done all this. So follow us. You can put the blindfold on and they can guide you through the minefield and you can come through unscathed. A lot of people don't want to pay tuition up front. They're afraid that what it's going to cost them. And so they try to go alone and they lose it all because they didn't take mentoring. Now, it works for some, but I would say the bulk of people need to be mentored and open and be coachable.
Yeah.
And so that would be the first thing.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that when you said $40,000 earlier, that's what you paid to be in that mastermind, they went, Oh my goodness. I can tell everyone listening, I have lost so much more and paid so much more than $40,000 for the lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, I stacked it on 2 credit cards
Hey,
so that I could pay for it. But
I
I
stacked
made it
mine
back.
on my bank account because it all went away.
Okay.
It was in the wind. It was gone.
Yeah.
My version of my tuition was Hard Knocks. I did not mastermind. I did not get into it. I just pissed it away in the wind because I was an idiot.
Well, you could say I'm going to get through this with spit and grit and brute force and make it happen. And for some people that works. And some people end up in the corner crying, licking their wounds. I mean, I'm going through an experience like that on one of my properties. And the one we talked about that had the fire.
Yeah.
The nuances of insurance that you just think you did everything right. And in theory, you have a plan on how you're going to make everybody whole. And then insurance comes in and says, well, it's ACV policy and here's what we're going to pay you. And now you've got to get a GC involved. And of course, they want to get paid along the way. And at the end of the day, they're saying it's $100,000 rebuild and we're going to give you 70K, or 80K or whatever the number is. They're going to give you a percentage of it.
Right.
It's tough. It's like, man, that didn't work out the way I thought it was.
Right. I thought I had that all in place.
But I had a system in place and the system backfired. So I'm reevaluating that system now.
Yeah, there's your pressure test right there.
But I digress. The other thing that I would say is just do it. You just got to get started. Yeah. You can sit and you can line up your pencils and check your paper and get everything lined up and never get started. You just gotta get started. That's
goes back to the gym analogy. You can get the membership and you can buy the clothes and the shoes and have your fancy water bottle and get all stretched out and limbered up. And then what?
Don't go work out.
Yeah, you still have to go work out to see results. Just because you buy the stuff and join the gym and wear the clothes and it's the same thing in real estate. Just because you read the book or went to the mastermind or listened to this podcast or other podcasts, or you're walking deals and you're analyzing them on your computer, but never actually pulling the trigger, you're not investing in real estate. You're not making a move. Like indecision is a decision.
Yeah, that's right. You're totally right. Yeah. And, just make offers. Like you said, too, there, just got to go make offers. Like, well, I looked at this house. I'm like, did you put an offer in on it?
It's reps.
Oh, no, because of this. I'm like, I guarantee 2 other people have put offers in while we've been talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's reps. It's reps. A year before I had any financing lined up or contractors lined up, I was on every wholesaler's list. I was looking at every deal that even mildly interested me. I would go to the group walkthroughs. I would never do a one-on-one because I didn't want to waste anybody's time. I was not buying a house. I was 18, but I was in real estate and I was figuring it out. And I was working that muscle of analyzing deals, estimating renovations, just soaking up information so that when it came time to finally buy my first deal, I went at it with 20 other people that all went and looked at it. I had built a relationship with that wholesaler because I had come to every freaking walkthrough for a year and a half. I'd never bought anything, so he or she probably didn't like me very much, but I was always there and I was always joking and I was always building relationships. Sure. And I got back to the office and I had that thing analyzed in 10 minutes and an offer sent, and I got the deal.
Yeah.
Because I had built that muscle of, okay, I need to look at this. Everything else is cosmetic. How's the roof? How's mechanical? How's this? How's that? I had my checklist. I had that muscle built, and it was just reps with no result for 8-9 months, a year of looking at stuff, knowing I wasn't going to buy it, but just building that muscle, reps. And then when it came time where it was game time, it was bam, dude, done. I've analyzed this. I've looked at this exact deal 1,000 times just under a different address. I was ready to go.
Yeah, you're right. And then I that's a big one. Pull the trigger, be ready to go. I remember talking to my realtor and I was making blind offers at one point. I said, just run and it took took a while to get the cojones to finally go ahead and do it. But I was like, just run a list of everything on the MLS that hasn't sold in the last year. And I authorize you to just send them an offer of 50% of whatever their last deal was.
Right.
How would you do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they'll never buy that. I'm like, do you know that? Like, well, no. I'm like, well, then send the darn offer.
Did you get any
And
deals on
all
it?
my goal was to get a seller to engage with
Right.
me.
Just to
And that in itself,
respond.
just a response, because I was like I was like, I don't know, toe in the water, toe out. And I'm like, you know what? We're just going to make offers. And this came out of the mentoring group. Somebody said, just offer them 50% of
Play the
whatever they got
odds.
last listed for. You never know. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's scary. I don't have the money.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, now go back to the third thing that I was going to say, raising private capital. That was the third thing is, it gave me a little bit of confidence once I knew that I had a potential funding partner.
Right.
And it's a little scary when you start thinking about talking to people about borrowing money from them privately. But as long as you've got the documentation and the systems and process, and you've got theoretically how this is going to work and how their money's secured, et cetera, you can at least have that conversation with them and say, this is what my plan is. I just want to know if when I find the deal, are you in? Or do you know somebody who's in, that I should talk to? And it just started snowballing. So, man, I started making offers like that. Didn't get one that was 50% of the asking price, but it created that muscle habit of doing it. And at least me signing a DocuSign document, saying, yep, I'm going to make this offer. And those recipients of those probably laughed. But hey, nobody made an offer on it in 365 days.
Right.
So
you got an offer.
Yeah. And she's like, well, you haven't even seen this house. And I'm like, listen, if it's $100,000 house and I can buy it for 50,
I'll be fine.
I'm going to be okay.
Right. Right.
Are you sure? I'm like, I'm pretty darn sure.
Yeah, sure enough to sign.
Yeah. Let's just give it a go. I don't know if anybody's going to take me up on my offer.
Fingers crossed.
Got my fingers crossed behind my back, but I didn't get any, but it created the habit of making an offer. It's an easy way to at least rip the Band-Aid off and to start making offers.
I agree. So we talked about where your business is now. Mm-hmm. What about where's it going with the shifts in the market, changes in interest rates? Where do you see your business or your strategy changing in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, well, I'm still buying. I was going to buy the house you sent the other day, but then it was crushed, with the gingerbread house. But,
that's good. That's good.
But no, I'm being a little pickier right now. I think I have to a little bit of the what Jim Collins, he talks about the hedgehog concept. I'm kind of balling up into a hedgehog right now. My thinking is, and my partner's on board with this, business partner, we're just we're divesting a few properties that are in the portfolio. We're slowing down and reevaluating the portfolio and saying, okay, this has been good. Maybe we should pay that house off. This has been a little troublesome. We've had this or that issue with it. Not really our area. It doesn't
maybe
really
we
fit
should sell
what
it.
We want to do. Let's sell that off. Where before we were so busy acquiring over here, we weren't really paying attention to the pool of properties that we had at that given time. So we're kind of taking the next, I'd say 6 months for sure, to kind of slow down, evaluate what we've got, probably do a little divestiture. We may even syndicate out one of the portfolios again and bring in another private investor. That will improve the cash flow because we'll pay a bunch of properties off. So we're looking at a few things. So I've got like 3 properties right now that I'm just trying to get pushed across the pushed across the goal line to get done, and then I can really focus on further evaluating what we currently own. So that's the market will change. I mean, we know it's going to come back, and I would rather be cash rich when it does change. Because I think that a lot of people have talked about it that, in the next probably 5 years, more millionaires are going to be made in real estate than ever. It'll be the last time possibly in my life that we'll see such a big transfer of wealth that's going to happen. And if you are too you're spread too thin and you don't have cash available.
Mhm.
So I've been kind of coaching up some of my private investors too, that like, here's my strategy right now. If you want to go deploy that money somewhere else, that's fine. I think what I'm finding though, most of them are like, no, I'll just sit tight.
Yeah.
I'm also nervous,
Right. Yeah.
and
I
I
mean,
would just soon sit tight and play with my cash.
real estate's down what, 8 to 10%?
Right.
Look at
Yeah.
stocks. Look at
Oh yeah.
crypto. Look at every other asset class, and you tell me what I should have bought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the answer is, dang it, I wish I would take all that money out of stocks that are down 30-40%, put it in real estate that's only down 10. I can swallow that. That's easy. Yeah, I mean, like, look at every other asset class right now. Tell me what I should have bought.
Yep, I agree. I found them very open to at least that conversation. I think it kind of takes a little bit of the
Right.
they calm down a little bit too,
Yeah.
because they also know that the real estate market is changing a little bit too. I mean, we're not seeing like we were back in the summer, or really back in the winter of last year, or really of 22, let's say the winter of 22, that man, we were getting
Yeah.
above asking offers, and things were selling, before it even hit the market. It was just crazy. Now
We're still
properties are,
seeing that now in Wichita, under 250, which is exactly why, similar to you, I don't like to flip anything over 200. 250 is a stretch,
yeah,
because everyone can buy this house. It's always going to be in high demand. Banks have a lot of incentive programs for first-time buyers with income restrictions, which means they can only buy up to a certain amount of house, which is that 130 to 160. I love that, because if all else fails, if the world melts, I'll turn them all into rentals.
that's right. Yeah.
So I really hesitate. I hate going over 200. It just, I don't like it.
The most recent ones that we've done that have been over 200 have got a unique asset that goes with
Right.
it. On a little bit of land,
Right.
something that's unique. It's not just, it's a good point to bring up. It's not just I drove through the neighborhood that I live in or whatever, and there happened to be a house down the street. Is there something else that goes with it? Is there a big shed in the backyard? Things like that make it unique. I mean, the two most recent ones I've done that were the 250 plus mark, that was the deal. They had acreage, or there was something unique about the property as well as the house.
Yeah.
They sold really fast. But yeah, anything that, I mean, I have one right now that's was listed for 125. That might have been a little bit of stretch, and we've had a really hard time over the last month of just getting it looked at.
Really?
So, I mean, the traffic's been slow, and I think I've also found too that as it tightens up, the standards of the buyers get a lot pickier.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation with my with the contractor I use, that we got to up our game a little bit. Things that we would have done in the past that we would have been like, yeah, it'll still sell. Right. And now, like, nope, that's a deal breaker. And which then means it costs more money.
Yeah.
It costs more money because now you've got to compete with other standards. And as we know, the material prices are up. There's inflation going on across the board.
Yeah.
So it's all cyclical. It's all related.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be smart in what we're doing.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's like, oh, well, are you still buying right now? And it's like, yeah, I'm just a little more cautious. I'm a little more disciplined than I was. We're a little more strict on our renovation. We're more mindful of the budget because now it's really impactful.
Yep, it does.
No, I understand. I completely understand. And I couldn't agree more with you. In wrapping up, in conclusion, what's the best piece of advice you have for a new investor? They just got started. They've made the decision to get started. They've bought their first couple deals, or they're actively looking and making offers, but they've made the decision. What's your best piece of advice for someone like that?
Copy is the best form of flattery. Find somebody that has achieved what you would like to achieve and ask them if they'll mentor you, or ask them what they did, how they do it.
Yeah.
And then too, if they won't, go find somebody else, because
Right.
if you're working with somebody that doesn't have an abundance mentality, they're not going to help you. That would probably be my biggest piece of advice. Don't be afraid to ask for help. None of us that are successful did it on our, well, I won't say none. The majority of us that have done it haven't done it on our own. We had mentors along the way that told us what and how and
Absolutely.
when,
Absolutely.
things like that. So, you know, somebody said this will resonate with you. If knowledge was the most valuable asset in the world, librarians would be the richest people in the world.
Yeah.
It's the application of knowledge
Through that.
that you need to figure out. So get that knowledge and apply it. That's the key, is apply it. And I have found too that the more you hang around with people that have achieved what you think you would like to achieve, it just oozes out of them into you. You can't help it.
Absolutely.
Start the universe works for you. It starts lining things up, and next thing you know, you get an opportunity in front of you. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What about for someone who's on the fence? They're not sure. They've heard about it, listened to some podcasts, read some books. They're thinking about it. But they haven't made the decision. They're on the fence about getting into real estate or not. What would you tell that person?
Oh man. I mean, my answer would be, I wish I'd have started earlier than I did. I mean, I didn't really get involved in real estate until like 15 years ago, which at that point I was in my early mid 30s. So I wish I would have started earlier. Time is the one thing you'll never get back.
Yeah.
So when you think about, like, we know that the value of homes is just going to go up. You can either get in now and ride the wave as they go up, or you can buy it when they're up. It doesn't matter. And I go back to what I think about, like, my biggest regret is I wish I would have been able to. Okay, I wish I would have doubled or tripled down on buying properties in 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
But the answer was, I did as much as we could at the time. But had I done some things earlier and raised more private capital and put myself out there and let people know what I was wanting to do, I could have done more.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's still my fault. But I wish I could have done more. And I think you'll be hard pressed to find a successful real estate investor in the market. There will be zero. There'll be zero real estate investors that says, I wish I would have bought less 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah. They're all going to say, I wish I'd have bought more. So then the answer becomes, okay,
come across a single person that wishes they owned less real estate.
Own less. They always want more. And so start now, because otherwise you'll be wishing you'd have done it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you finally decide to pull the trigger. The other thing I would say too is set a goal. The goal, this is something I've really focused on really for myself the last year, is when somebody says, well, how many houses do you want? The answer can't be like, well, more. It's always more. How much more? Just more. All of them. Yeah. Well, I used to jokingly say that, I don't need to own every house, just every house that touches the property line of a house that I own.
Yeah.
It just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Well said.
I mean, that can't be the answer. That's just not. Now you've got a goal that is never achievable. So set a number. Say, hey, I'd like to own, I want to buy 2 houses a year.
Right.
Buy 2 houses a year. Next year is the goal 2 or 4.
Right.
Another little thing.
Sometimes what you'll see is you set a goal to buy 2 and you'll buy 5.
Correct. Yeah. So just there's other things I think of too that there's no reason that you shouldn't. So I'm talking to the brand new person. There is no reason that you shouldn't own real estate, because you can set up a system that will give you, let's make math easy. It's $100,000 house. Okay. You're going to buy that house. You're going to renovate it. There's tips and tactics and tricks that you could buy that house with no money down, bring in a private advanced investor, buy it the right way so that you're no more than 80% leverage in the property.
And all of those resources are out there online, on YouTube, or podcasts like this. They're all over. There's no excuse to, I didn't know. When you got started, that wasn't as prevalent. You had to pay $40,000 to get into a mastermind to get this information.
So much free info out there.
Oh.
Just spend your free time on YouTube. And I would find one person that you like that speaks to you and just stick with that one.
Yeah.
Just go super deep with that one individual. You don't need to get the sprinkling of a bazillion different people. But one thing I learned in a mastermind group that just kind of resonated with me is if I could teach you a way to set up a $100,000 self-renewing retirement account every 15 years, would you be interested in that? Tax-free. Yeah. Tax-free too. So buy a house today. Next year you buy a house again. The next year you buy another house. We're talking one house a year, 100,000 each time. Okay. You put them in 15-year financing. So you've got $1.5 million worth of houses, let's say, in real estate. In year 16, the house that you've had a tenant in paying on for 15 years comes vacant. You refinance that property and you put that money in hip pocket National Bank.
Yeah.
Which is about 100 grand, tax free.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you just keep doing that. If you say that's not enough, buy two.
Yeah. Buy more houses
a year. 2 houses a year. It's 200 grand a year. Self-renewing, tax-free retirement fund that you can tap into in 15 years. There's zero reason you shouldn't buy real estate. Absolutely none. Start now, because think about where you'll be in 15 years.
And there isn't a retirement account out there or product out there that can beat that, that can do that with the tax benefit,
absolutely,
with the leverage, with the tangibility and the forced appreciation. You can't beat it.
Correct.
Can't beat real estate.
It doesn't exist. Not at all. So start now. That's my closing words.
There you go. There it is, straight from the mouth. RJ Nusz, thank you so much for your time again today. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy and you carved out this time, and I want to thank you again. I'm sure our listeners are very thankful as well. So this was an awesome episode, jam-packed full of content. Do you have anything else to say for your parting words?
Yeah, feel free to reach out.
How can someone get a hold of you? You told me to put your email in the show notes here.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, just put my email out there and they can email me that way and get a hold of me.
Cool.
I love to share. I just want to see more people get started.
That's awesome, man, RJ. I really appreciate that. And hopefully the listeners don't take advantage of that and flood your email with it. So hopefully you don't get spammed and added to a bunch of buyers lists in Atlanta, Georgia, or something like that. So RJ, thanks again for your time today. We'll look forward to seeing you out there. I'm sure we'll have a house to sell to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Later, RJ. Thanks a lot, man.